Hi guys, I thought I'd do a little review for vintage product photography on the Olympus TG-6 TOF camera, and TLDR, it's a great camera for the job. This is a positive review, so let's get into it. What I like about this camera is that it's relatively small, not tiny, and if you need to get the camera inside of something, you can. You couldn't do that with a bigger, GH5 style camera, big DSLR camera. The other day I had a document bag and it would only open about 3 inches at the top, and I slipped this inside because the maker's mark was buried in the depths of the bag, and I was able to take a great photo. So small size helps you. It takes fantastic ultra macro shots. If I wanted to focus on the very tip of this pen, I could, and get all the detail of the tip. I tend to use the ultra macro for hallmarks in jewellery, so 925 stamps on the clasps of bracelets or inside a ring, that kind of thing. You can zoom right in and take absolutely crisp, clean, fantastic photos. They're so good that some hallmarks that it's so hard to see, you can actually take the photo and then read the hallmark by looking at the photo. Extremely useful. It's tough. It's tough. If you're taking thousands of photos per year, you're constantly backwards and forwards between the photography stage and your computer. You might drop the camera at some point. I've dropped this one 3 times, not really dropped it, but I had a little coffee table next to the PC and I just knocked it off there twice in one day. And it's a tough camera, it's not going to break. My bigger, interchangeable lens camera setup is worth about $1,500, and if I broke the lens on that, it would be a disaster. So this has taken tens of thousands of photos, and you will drop it or knock it off probably eventually. Because it's small, it doesn't take up much room in my photography stage. This area is only 1 meter wide, and I like to put things on the edge, sort of pile them up, and then I photograph them one by one. It's very nice to have a compact camera that doesn't take up much room. It will take filters. You have to buy the filter holder adapter from an aftermarket supplier. I think Olympus sells them. I bought a cheap aftermarket, third-party product, and you can slap a filter on and protect the lens. I also put a bit belatedly a protective film on the back because I was starting to scratch the LCD. You can take 1:1 aspect ratio, very easy to change. You can go to 16:9 if you want to photograph something a bit wider. I'm using mostly 16:9 or 1:1. Quick and easy to change. You can work it one-handed, no problem. The autofocus tends to be pretty good. Sometimes, like if you're focusing in ultra macro mode, you can get the wrong part of the item. What was I trying to do? I think I was trying to focus on like some scratches on a camera lens, and I had to focus on like the rim, like the filter ring of the lens, and then I just sort of moved and pointed it at the scratches. You can move the camera in and out to get the perfect focus. So yeah, the autofocus generally gets what you want, but if it doesn't, you just have to be a little bit creative. No big deal. We're professionals, right? Very convenient exposure compensation. Just press this button here, and then we can go brighter or darker. I use this all the time because I'm sometimes on these white backgrounds. It's a bit of a nightmare. And so the little dial allows you to select the microscope. That's the ultra macro. And I use that most of the time because I can actually pull the camera right back to 40 centimeters back and still take, not ultra macro, but just kind of like close-up photos. So I'm photographing things generally the size of a shoebox or smaller, and I just leave it in ultra macro mode. If I do have to go back further, I just go to P for the program automatic mode. Very easy to change. I do find I flick this dial off accidentally, occasionally. Yeah, just a fantastic little product photography camera if you're doing stuff on eBay. Now, in terms of image quality, it tends to vary a bit. I think maybe because I'm in P mode, it will sometimes mess around with the ISO, but look, it's a 1/2.33 sensor. It's never going to be brilliant image quality. It tends to be like really good for ultra macro, and then the other stuff, it tends to be good, and occasionally you get a disappointing shot. I think if the ISO is getting jacked up or something. Some of the outdoor shots have been a bit disappointing with this camera. If I was doing product photography for a magazine or an important website with, brand new products, I wouldn't use this. I'd get something with a bigger sensor. This is for your at-home secondhand goods, antique dealer, eBay seller, whatever, Etsy, that kind of thing. It's not a proper, studio type camera. What else did I want to write about? Now, I just did a shutter count on this last night. I've taken 40,000 photos, and it's still going strong. I noted someone on the forum said they were up to 150,000. And I think they might have been getting a problem at some point after that. But look, if I got to 100,000, I'd say this camera's done its job. So it's going strong at 40,000. It is waterproof, not that you'll probably ever need that. When I have had it underwater, I let the water, I'll even loosen the filter, and I let the water come in under the filter so that there's no meniscus visible in the shot. And yeah, then I do my recordings that way. But like I said, don't really use that for product photography. But it's nice knowing it's waterproof. I am constantly charging the battery, and I have had this battery compartment open and closed God knows how many hundreds of times. And yeah, the seal is holding up well. It's a bit dusty, so good sign. The hinge is holding up well. I press it down fairly hard so that I'm not putting too much stress on the latch. But yeah, the mechanics are holding up well. I always take the photos off via USB. Oops, I just locked it. Again, the seal, the hinge, the latch, it's all holding up after 40,000 shots, and I've had this since early 2020, I think. Yeah, it's been robust. I've dropped it outside. It's been wet. I think I found it squished down in the mud in my driveway once when I lost it. So I either stepped on it or ran over it. So yeah, you can't kill this thing. It's very, very impressive. Now, you don't get the filter, you don't even get a lens cap when you buy it. Get the aftermarket filter adapter, put a filter on it, because building lens, you don't want to damage your lens. You'll never be able to fix that. So, bit annoying, but what can I say? It's worth doing. Battery life is a bit annoying when it's on the computer. When you're taking the files off it, it tends to run down fairly quickly. So I'm constantly recharging the battery. I wish I had a slightly bigger battery, but I have 2 spare ones. I did buy a cheap pair of Bono cells. One of them failed. It just dried out. It became really lightweight. But the Olympus one, the original battery is still doing okay. At one point I thought maybe it was a bit low on capacity, and I bought a new one, but the new one's kind of the same. So I think I didn't use this camera at one point for about a year. And then I went back to it, and I kind of forgot that, the battery maybe wasn't such a long life product. I mean, it's a good cycle life. It's just, it doesn't last forever. I could swear when I first bought this camera, I would have it on the computer and it wouldn't go flat. And then maybe I'm misremembering, maybe it's because I updated Windows, I don't know. But now, yeah, I try and get the files off and then just unplug the camera, turn it off. And, it's really that time on the computer that is annoying with regard to the battery life. There's a very roundabout way of checking the shutter count. I'm not going to go through it. I might do a separate video one day on that. Yeah, guys, those are, I think, the pros and cons. I think these are 450 to 600 secondhand, or I should say 400 to 550. The TG-7 is basically the same thing. You might as well just get a TG-6. Try and get one with a shutter count a bit less than 40,000, because for high throughput photography you will get that number going pretty high yourself, so you want to have a lot of room for that number to grow. A lot of the time people don't use this much. I've seen a few for sale with like 500 shutter count, things like that. I didn't speak much about the video. It does take 4K with a pretty nasty crop. All the video modes have time limits on them, which I hate. I actually bought this for video, believe it or not, and because of that I ended up not using it for video purposes. It will take video in ultra macro mode. It will take some high frame rates once the resolution is brought down a bit. Go through the specs. You don't need me to tell you, but if you do need the weird function of ultra macro video, like if you're filming a mechanism in a watch or something, this will do it. I've played around with it. It's very good quality, and yeah, what can I say? I think that's it, guys. Highly recommend the TG-6 for vintage secondhand product photography. Takes good photos, very versatile, small, tough, compact, robust. It's been through its paces, and yeah, has my tick of approval.